Attorneys for a Perry woman who's accused of killing a woman last year was in court today to discuss whether or not her cell phone could be considered evidence.
Kaylee Brackett is charged with the murder of 43-year-old Kimberly Neptune. The defense argued the state's possession of her phone was unreasonable, citing it's been in their possession for a year and they haven't been able to open it without the password.
The defense also argued that the phone contains evidence that would exonerate Brackett. The state, who has the phone from a legal seizure, argued the phone could contain incriminating evidence if they were able to access it.
The state says it would be unfair for the defense to access the phone for information that the state couldn't access. Despite the court ruling, they could examine the phone.
The defense says forcing disclosure of the password would be a violation of the Fifth Amendment. The judge ruled that an expert appointed by the defense could create a mirrored image of the cell phone. The judge also ruled that the state could observe the process but not look at the contents or password.